Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live Q&A with the Takács Quartet. We're so pleased that you're joining us. If you are joining us for the first time tonight, we've just kicked off our season with a fabulous concert by the Takács String Quartet, live from the Chautauqua Auditorium in Boulder, Colorado, where they live and where they are in residence at the University of Colorado. The concert was originally planned to open our season this evening in Richardson Auditorium on the campus of Princeton University. And while I cannot tell you all how much I miss seeing you live and hearing the quartet live and feeling the energy, I'm very, very grateful to the Takács Quartet for helping us to bring this concert to you digitally. The Takács Quartet has appeared on our season probably more than any other ensemble. Tonight was their 21st appearance. So it seemed completely appropriate to venture into this new format with them. I've seen a lot of music played live online since we all went into hiding last March, and most of it is musicians who are home alone or musicians who are quarantining together in a bubble or as a family. It's great. It's great to hear a string quartet again, and it's so great to hear the Takács Quartet. So I'm very, very pleased to welcome the members of the Takács Quartet this evening. And I think they're about to join us. Yay! Bravo!
Good evening.
Wow.
Hi.
I wish that I could clap loud enough for you to actually experience what it would have felt like in Richardson, but I can tell you I was getting nonstop texts. I guess that's one of the things you can do in the middle of this kind of listening. People saying virtual applause. So welcome to all of you. Let me just, in case, I know everybody knows who you are, but just in case, let me do a quick introduction. We have Andras Fair there. Maybe you could just give a quick hello. Yes. The cellist of the Takács Quartet, Harumi Rhodes.
Hi, everyone.
Violinist, hi, Harumi. Ed Dusenberry, first violinist.
Hi.
And Richard O'Neill, the quartet's newest member. I'm very happy to meet you virtually and look forward to meeting you in person.
Likewise, Mona. Thank you.
Welcome. I'm just going to jump in and kick off the discussion with a few questions, but I want to make sure that we answer as many questions that come into the chat as possible. So let me just remind people who are watching that you can use the chat function in YouTube and the comment section of Facebook to ask your burning questions to the Takács Quartet, and you do need to be logged into your Gmail account to use that function in YouTube. So I am sitting here in my office in the music department on the campus of Princeton University, and it's the first time that I've been back here for any extended period of time since last March. And it's really weird. And I just listened to the opening night of our season by myself in my office. And it's so great to hear and see you guys, but I can tell you that the loss of the energy of an audience and of my colleagues and of musicians and students running around is palpable. So I'm sure that's only a fraction of what you're feeling. So my first question is, what is it like to play a concert to an empty hall? And how is it different than it would have been if you were in Richardson Auditorium tonight?
Yeah, well, first of all, we really miss Richardson Auditorium very much, and the wonderful audience and the energy that we always feel there, the great acoustic. But I think we've had to get used to this new situation. There's one respect in which we are used to playing for no audience, and that's when we're recording something for a CD. But this felt a little bit different to a CD because we were very aware of it going to an audience, and so we tried as much as possible to just have as much performance energy as we could, and I think to sort of feed off of each other's energy, that's really the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah. What do you miss the most about playing live concerts?
That's a good question. We might have different answers.
Well,
I actually miss the silences, which affect your timing of something. Like when you really hear an audience listening and then you wait a little bit longer. What about you guys? Anything else?
Yeah, I think that maybe the silences are some of the most special moments, but I think that's because there's usually a hum in the air. There's this feeling of energy, a feeling of everybody coming from completely different parts of their lives, even if it's work or the parking lot or some crazy situation at home, or and then they come into the concert hall and there's this sort of hum of everybody's previous energy that they bring into the room, and at a certain point that becomes a unified hum, and those moments of unification, even the silences, can be extremely magical. I miss that so much.
Yeah, I miss it too. But I have to say, I think it was remarkable that you captured a lot of that tonight. I don't know how you did it, but you did. I mean, you really, the sense of, wanting to jump to your feet and clap at the end, even that, that I think a lot of people felt that. So congratulations. So we have a lot of questions, I have to say, coming in around the topic, pandemic related questions, I guess I would say. I'm sure there's a lot of curiosity. We have a viewer waiting in what we're calling our virtual backstage, who just attended the concert and wants to ask a live question. So I'm going to invite Frutuoso Santana, who is a local music lover and a graduate student and a subscriber, to come to the broadcast. Welcome, Frutuoso.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the performance. It was wonderful, as always. So my question is the following. In the current moment, as COVID-19 transforms our lives, all of us have been confronted with the need to change our approach to our daily professional activities. While in some industries, these changes are barely tolerated and we hope to soon return to normal, in others, these changes have been considered positive and will be sustained in the post-pandemic reality. So what changes provoked by the pandemic do you think will be a permanent feature of your professional lives?
Wow, that's a supremely good question. And I think, I mean, maybe the others are thinking further ahead than me. One of the things that's so strange is how one's sense of time changes. And so usually we would be planning ahead like 2 or 3 years quite happily. Now we're quite happy if we can plan ahead like 2 or 3 months. And so I think I'm not even quite ready to face that question, which maybe means that I'm in some sort of denial about it. I think we are definitely hoping that, at some point we'll be playing live music again. And I think it's a little bit too early to say, at least in chamber music, how this is going to change things. I certainly will never complain again, as I sometimes have here in Colorado. Backstage, we tend to just wait backstage here when we play in Boulder for our university audience, and sometimes the noise of the audience is very loud, the talking, and so loud that I can't hear myself tune. I'm never ever going to complain about that again. I don't know if you guys had a bit more to say on that, but
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I don't have a specific answer to that question yet. I mean, time will tell. But I think one thing that I've learned and hopefully will carry with me in the future is the way I view this sort of organizational string quartet. In other words, I think maybe previously I might have had some thoughts in my head, like, in a quartet, it kind of takes 4 times as long to do anything as opposed to when it's just yourself, because we have 4 opinions and 4 decisions to make, and there's a lot of collaboration. And occasionally, I might have thought, well, it would have been nicer if this could move faster, but that's not how I feel now. I feel like we're extremely nimble, actually, and we're in a position where we can make changes and we can be flexible and we can do things like this, where we can actually be together for all intents and purposes. And I think we're in a position where we can take that feeling of flexibility and turn that into something that's very empowering, even when we are all back together again, hopefully, fingers crossed.
I'm crossing my fingers. It's going to happen. One thing that has obviously changed is I can't remember you're ever coming to Princeton and playing a concert of movements, not playing full work. So we have a listener here whose name is Anne, and I won't say her last name because it's the same as mine, who asks, how did you feel about presenting only some movements of the quartets you played?
Personally, I enjoy it very much because somehow it feels that we need to make a bigger effect to our audience through the internet. So we have to grab them with more instantly, with different kinds of values, maybe, so that they would feel something close to a live performance. And I think having vastly different composers, individual movements, that has somehow a much more dynamic effect, hopefully, on the audience as well.
Yeah. Sorry, Richard, did you want to jump in? Look like you, no. Okay, sorry. No, I was going to say, as a listener, one of the things I find kind of interesting about it is that it does make the stylistic differences between the pieces much more stark, and it in some ways it's incredibly impressive to see you guys switch mood and switch tone and feeling so quickly. Somehow when you're hearing kind of the typical steady diet of, a string quartet, and then you go off stage and there's a break and then there's intermission, you have a little more chance to kind of sink into the harmonic language. And this is really, really lays bare how impressive it is that what you do. So it'll be interesting to see if that's something that continues.
I think we also find any quartet concert, just because of the nature of the genre, is a conversation between the different composers, because any composer who writes string quartets is very aware of what else is out there. So this is a more intense conversation with more juxtapositions. But maybe that has some advantages. We can certainly include more voices that, we'd never have time to play, 5 or 4 or 5 different composers. So yeah, we've been enjoying it.
Yeah. Still a lot of questions, about pandemic related questions. So Christy asks, were you separated during lockdown? Did you continue to meet? And if you were separated, what is the longest that you've been apart?
Our situation was sort of unusual because this came on us really at the time when Richard was about to join the quartet. So, Richard had this rather unique experience of being in LA, I think, for a chunk of time, and then just driving out to move here. So yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything about that experience. But
we were supposed to. I was hoping that I would see the quartet in New York City. They were scheduled to play with Jerry and Garrick at the 92nd Street Y, and I was playing at the Chamber Music Society, and I got a call from her. It was like, we're not going to come out, Richard. And then 2 days later, everyone knows what happened. All the concerts all across the country and maybe in the world just stopped. And then I went home to LA, and they were here in Boulder. And then luckily in June, I got in my car and I came to the house where we've been sort of quarantining together, and the rest is history. We've been able, because we were keeping very, we're basically not seeing anybody. We're seeing our students via Zoom, and we're minimizing as much risk as we can by we haven't flown anywhere. We've just been trying to treat each other like this is our own little bubble.
Yeah.
And that in a way that's been a wonderful gift to me, because I've had this very loving situation to start this wonderful journey with the quartet, even amidst all of the sadness and all the cancellations and disappointments. For us to be together and to make music and to actually have that luxury it's just been really wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth saying that you guys are especially lucky to be there in Boulder in the situation you are. A lot of string quartets, a lot of ensembles don't have that luxury. They're in big cities. There are places where it would be very, very difficult to kind of come together and bubble up. So, and I said at the beginning, like I haven't heard another string quartet since last March live. Yeah. So I'm really.
Well, we did have a period when we were, when Boulder was on lockdown and like the rest of the country, so we didn't. But that happened to be the time before Richard was due to join us. So by the time he joined us, fortunately, we were able to rehearse, and he's been staying here in our house.
So there are a lot of questions about Richard, about your joining the quartet and in this moment, and you've already talked about it a little bit, but before we leave pandemic, and then we're going to get off it, I do have one more viewer in our virtual backstage, Greg Kaler, who is a professional pianist and a composer and has appeared on our series, actually with Julian Labro, the wonderful accordion player who you guys are going to work with soon. And so welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Marna. And thank you guys. That was so beautiful. It made me so happy to see and hear musicians playing in the same room. Richard, hearing you talk about how you joined the quartet really resonated. I was thinking that at the beginning of the pandemic, I lost my desire to play or listen to or compose music. It was really quite disorienting. And then the thing that helped me find my way back was being able to play four hands piano with my wife. And the joy of playing together was the thing that allowed me to then find my way to enjoying playing just for myself. And I was just wondering if the effects of isolation if the effect was the same for any of you, if you experienced that loss of desire to engage with music, and how you found your way back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the period March and April were dark, and I too lost my mojo, or I sort of took out the viola to practice, but it was really such a time of uncertainty and sadness to have all of these wonderful gatherings of great musicians and great repertoire that I was going to finish out my time before joining this wonderful quartet, and to have it all just wiped away like it wasn't there. It was severely disappointed. I was depressed. But there's been so many moments when June came around where I don't know, I didn't say this to the quartet, but just that the physical sensation of being surrounded not only by the most beautiful sound, but by the most beautiful people, and enjoying some of the greatest music ever written. It was almost, I would go home or I would go back to where I was staying, and I was just sort of, it was too much. It was too much. And it was a dream come true, but I had been so starved for so many months and so lonely, not lonely from necessarily even people, but from doing what we need to do. I think all of us feel that way. We need to make music. It's our calling, and it was, so yeah, all the last 7 months have been, I think I tell this to everybody in the group, probably too much, but it's been like a gift. Every rehearsal I leave and I feel refreshed and like I'm doing what I've always wanted to do my whole life, and we're together, and so I understand how you felt, and making music with another human being, it's a sacred thing. I think it really it's beyond words, that communication.
We felt a lot of that tonight, and you gave us a huge gift as an audience as well. Princeton audiences have been incredibly lucky to hear the Takács Quartet in so many different pieces of repertoire over the last, I don't know, 10 years. I mean, I've heard you guys play the complete Beethoven cycle, the complete Bartók cycle, a project with Meryl Streep during our 125th anniversary, which was just last year, to these two amazing Warhorse works by Schubert, the cello quintet, in the up close format that we present, which was so remarkable. And then the Trout quintet, we've been really lucky. And actually, I should say that tonight you would have been with Jeremy Denk. So we did lose Jeremy from the equation. I think I've personally known you through 4 personnel changes. And as a listener, I can tell you that the chemistry of every group is different, and that it has a real effect on the spirit of the ensemble. And it was so wonderful to hear you guys play together and hear you come into the quartet, Richard, tonight. I would say that I felt a heightened sense of ensemble, but more than anything else, I could really feel a sense of joy. It really could feel like the enjoyment that you had communicating with each other just literally leapt off the screen, which is just such an incredible gift for all of us. So, Richard, I can't wait to meet and hear you in person. And you've already talked a little bit. I mean, my question was going to be, what is it like to join a quartet in this moment? But I guess I would ask it a little bit differently and just say, how is it different joining now than you imagined it might have?
Well, I mean, I can speak to that a little bit. In 27 years of playing in the quartet, I've never really rehearsed at my home, which is a little silly considering what we play is chamber music. But we always sort of go off to the studio. We're very lucky to have a nice studio at the university, but right about now, that studio is not looking quite as attractive as it was. And in any case, CU is fluctuating between a kind of a hybrid model of learning, and then the last 2 weeks until very recently was all remote. So anyway, we've actually been rehearsing here. This is the house that Harumi and I live in, and we've been rehearsing just downstairs. And it's created a new kind of, for me, a new sort of atmosphere around the rehearsing, which has been particularly nice at this time with Richard joining, because maybe it's really important to play, but it's also really important to talk and just spend some time hanging out. And which brings me to the wonderful cheese platter that we all received today, and we indeed shortened our rehearsal this afternoon and sat around the kitchen table eating this wonderful cheese platter that you sent us, and it was a very special experience.
It's a win-win situation. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, shout out to Olsen's, first of all. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And now I know the secret. I'll have to send you more cheese. So I have another question for you, Richard, from a listener who's in the virtual backstage, Lu Chen, who graduated from Princeton a couple years ago and now is a colleague, works here, and runs a wonderful education program teaching students in Trenton. Welcome, Lou.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for gifting us with your music. And Richard, I have to say, I feel like I know you already because since the pandemic started, I've been watching all the Lincoln Center live stream videos, and you've been in quite a few of them. So it's great to see you again in this context. But yeah, so you talked a bit about your entree into the Takács Quartet, and I'm kind of curious about what the process is like of selecting and welcoming a new member, of both discovering and then honing that special group chemistry. If you could talk a bit about that.
Well, the selecting was it's very wonderful for us, really, because we've known Richard for quite a long time as a colleague of ours at the Music Academy of the West. and so there generally what happens is you play with various different people, and we were very lucky. We played with several people, and they were all wonderful, and we were felt very grateful and very happy that Richard wanted to join us. But it's a sort of it's a more informal process in a way. You have to sort of try and replicate what you're going to do in real life, which is to sit around and have meals together and rehearse and try and do that. Obviously, you have to do it in a rather concentrated way.
I received a gift my third day here in Boulder in June. Andra brought these huge boxes of basically the entire quartet repertoire, and the parts that my predecessor, the dear Jerry Walter, saved are not just her parts, but Gabor Ormai's and Roger Tapping's parts. So I was, after rehearsal, I could just open up these boxes and go through and see decades of treasures, the musical treasures of hard fought, hard won traditions, decisions. It's all there. It's like it was really meaningful for me because it's sort of through these physical pieces of paper I could see these musical souls, basically,
and also see how many times we change our bowings.
Yeah, but it really made things. I'm so grateful to Jerry for giving me, and through Andra, the parts, because there's I hope that I can fulfill this it's I think a great quartet is more than the four individual players. It kind of becomes its own entity, and I'm just so honored and thrilled that they've invited me and trusted me with their lives, and and to see all the people that have given so much, and to sit with them, and eat cheese and hang out, and then play some of the most profound music I've ever written. It's been great.
For the big picture, maybe a nice but unfortunately true story, so not just a legend. There was a string quartet whose cellist was just about leaving and should absolutely remain nameless. And when the new cellist joined, he also got those creeds of quartet literature, what Richard was just so happy to be about. But as it turned out, the outgoing cellist maliciously erased bowing and fingerings in most of the work, writing in the opposite things.
Oh my gosh.
So the new cellist came in and was totally dumbfounded. What's going on? So it looks like not every personal changes go so smoothly as we were lucky to experience.
It's a great story.
Well, I'm glad that didn't happen to you. And I have to say, Harumi, like, is it nice not to be the new person on the block? It wasn't that long ago that you were the new member.
I know, it's funny how the tables have turned. Yeah, it's an interesting feeling, and also, what I didn't say before is that we've known Richard through the Music Academy of the West, but actually Richard and I have known each other for a long time. We overlapped in school together. We went to several music festivals together. We were at the Marlboro Music Festival together for several summers and on several tours, and also CMS. So it kind of feels like this interweaved different ways that we all know each other, that on one hand it feels new and fresh and exciting, and on the other hand it feels like an inevitable process that we're just growing together and being able to almost pick up where we left off, which is really nice.
So there are a lot of questions coming in about repertoire and how you chose the repertoire for this evening. I want to talk about that and about the Coleridge Taylor in particular. I just want to say that I remember so vividly when you were here the year that you did the Beethoven cycle, and you participated in one of our live music meditations. And it took place just a few days after the presidential election in 2016. And there was a moment when the music came to an end, and people were talking about their experience. And Jerry, who was in the viola seat, just burst into tears. And I'll never forget that. I mean, it was just a real sense of things changing, and people were nervous, and there was just a lot of anxiety, and the collective experience of hearing you play the music in that setting really, really brought people together. So here we flash forward now, and so much has changed, not just pandemic, but there's incredible amount of division and reckoning in the country, both political and racial. So I guess my first question is, what do you see as the role of that classical music can play in some of the national conversations that are going on now, and specifically the role that the Takács Quartet might play in that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very important question, and it's something we've been thinking about. I think the first thing is to say, of course, there's a lot of things that have happened in the last few months that are very humbling, and you do question yourself. And I think one thing that's been very meaningful to us is we have a graduate quartet here. That we have an intensive program here, and so they are three of them are half African American, and one of them is half Latinx, and so we've seen their tremendous trauma and horror and upset at the various events that have happened. George Floyd, and they were demonstrating and also thinking about their choice of repertoire. And one thing that we did with them, we actually did a joint program together just here at CU, partly because we wanted to it was our own series that we have here, but we had an extra concert, and which came up because another group couldn't come from out of town. And so we used it as an opportunity to showcase, so that they could really play some of the works that mean a lot to them. We started the program with the whole of the Samuel Coleridge Taylor, the 5 Fantasy-Stücke. And then we finished with an arrangement for octet that we made of a Villa-Lobos piece, which was very exciting for us. And I think the experience of doing that was maybe a partial answer to your question. There were a lot of voices on the stage, both the composers, Coleridge Taylor, Jesse Montgomery, we had Daniel Bernard Romain, Carlos Simon, and Villa-Lobos, and then the differing voices of the two ensembles. And the Takács Quartet, through its various different iterations, it obviously started as a completely Hungarian group, and a wonderful group. But the world is a different place now, and we have different nationalities, different ethnicities in the group. And quartets are, when they're working well, they're a tremendous exercise in cooperation, because you have to really celebrate individual voices, and you have to do it in a way of trying to find out both what makes you different and how you can unify. And so I think that's perhaps one answer to the question, that by stretching ourselves and exploring our individuality, and maybe expanding our repertoire and being curious about things that we don't know, repertoire that we don't know. The Samuel Coleridge Taylor is a wonderful piece, and I think we're ashamed that we didn't discover it sooner than this summer. And so it's an opportunity to celebrate a multiplicity of voices at a time in this country when there's such a tremendous sense of division. That would at least be a partial answer to that question.
We have another related question from someone who's in the virtual backstage, Anna Lim, who's a wonderful violinist.
Hi. Oh, yeah. That was a fabulous concert. Thank you so much. Just was so wonderful to hear you in this new configuration. Yeah, I mean, my question is very related actually to what Marna was just talking about. You know, I while you were playing the Coleridge Taylor, I was just really thinking about as a fellow musician, I think we all have this same question on our minds. You know, how do we justify playing these this older music that comes from a time in the history of the world that a lot of great injustices were heaped upon different kinds of people, and I sometimes feel very much on the defensive, even not towards other people, but even towards myself. And you know, I just wanted to maybe get more of your thoughts on how you know, we can best help the cause of the just society. I mean, I think that classical musicians have a big role to play, as you just said, and you've been so thoughtful about it already. But I wondered if you had, you know, along what kinds of lines you've been thinking in terms of pushing this forward, and also, you know, at Princeton, there's been so much argument and tension over these issues, of course, in the world, but also in our little community here, a little bubble here. So, you know, I feel like these composers, Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert, who we know and love, they, to me, are so relevant now because they speak to our common humanity, but they are often perceived from the outside, I think, as products of a sort of unjust time. And how do we deal with all of this? So anyway, would love to have any thoughts that you have.
Yeah, I first of all, hi Anna, how are you?
Hi, Richard.
I just, everything about your question and your thought process is I can relate to. I feel like I've been struggling with some of those questions too. And when you were talking, I was actually thinking back to just a few minutes ago when Richard was talking about the intense power of music and how, you know, how it made him feel in March and in April and May and June and these last few months, and just what an amazingly powerful art form it is. And I think, I don't know, Anna, I don't know if you ever feel this way, but when you're in the presence of something, whether it's a person or a piece of art, when you're in the presence of something that you think is so powerful and so, you know, has the capacity to do so much, sometimes it can be a double-edged sword, because when you feel like something's so sacred or so fantastic, then there's a part of us that feels like we need to gate it. We need to make it even but more special by almost coddling it and making it almost like a special club or a special thing that's this beautiful gem that that we hold so dear. And I think actually what makes music so powerful and so amazing is its capacity to include so many voices and so many people and so many hearts and so many minds, and to make that kind of connection across so many continents. And I think for me, some of these questions that you raised, I keep coming back to the same answer, which is trying to reconnect with the parts of music making that are inclusive, and the parts of music making that involve sharing and involve growing and learning, not the parts of music making that are so wonderful that we need to just make a special club of it and not include other people in it. And unfortunately, sometimes that happens. And so I think what I'm feeling most strongly about these days is making music in a way that's more, that involves more of everything, instead of less of certain things, so that we can just keep it a secret. It shouldn't be a secret. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but those are some of the feelings that I've been having recently.
It's a lovely response. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Amen. I'm so glad we're recording this. I'm going to bottle that up and write it all down. It's really, really, really beautifully said. There are a number of questions, kind of more just basic repertoire focused. Paris, who listened tonight to the concert from Vancouver. I mean, I have to say that's like a nice thing that we can do, right? That we're presenting a concert in Princeton, and we had people in Australia and Switzerland. And Paris asks, what are you working on now as a group with no regular touring to look forward to?
Yeah. Hi, Paris. We know Paris very well.
Okay.
Well, one thing we're doing is we're actually preparing a Mendelssohn disc, but not that. It's actually more than one Mendelssohn. We're working on a wonderful string quartet by Fanny Mendelssohn, Fanny Hensel, and we'll be coupling that with the quartet that her brother wrote in memory of her, Opus 80, after she died, and also an early Mendelssohn quartet. So we're making that disc for Hyperion Records, which is our regular label. It had been supposed to be in England in November, and we've moved it to about 30 miles from here instead. So that's keeping us busy for the time being. And then we're just getting ahead with other repertoire that will be coming up in the spring. We were playing Brahms' Opus 67 today, and we'll be working on Benjamin Britten's third string quartet next week as well. So it's a fun time.
Brandon asks, how did you curate tonight's program?
Well, we had this idea of, as Andras talked about, of having a medley. And in a way, it was just trying to work out the transitions. We knew that the pieces and the composers we wanted to play. And then it's just a bit of a juggling act to see what would make a good transition. And so, for example, maybe the Slow Moon of the Debussy felt like it would be really good after the kind of fireworks and the explosion of the last movement of the Bartok.
Okay, I'm gonna turn to lighter subjects, since I want to end on a lighter note, because you guys have been incredibly generous with your time. So can I just ask all four of you to tell us one thing about yourselves that isn't widely known, that's not music related? Hobby, passion, what are you reading? What are you binging on Netflix? Lightning round.
Who wants to go first?
Andras wants to go first.
Yeah, I certainly don't.
You can tell us about stargazing.
So I've been, especially in what March and April, Richard referred to as cause for depression and other related articles. I know we are spoiled living here in the Rocky Mountains, so I managed to, selfishly, and I'm feeling a little bit embarrassed, but I managed to cram in approximately 5 times tennis weekly, plus 3 times hiking, and I even managed to work on the family picture album, which was only scheduled 10-15 years down the line.
That's good.
Well, let's see, something personal that people don't know about me. So my favorite food is soup, actually. I could eat soup for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in any season. any day of the year. So one thing I've been doing recently, just because I've been home quite a bit, is cooking homemade soups, if not every day, maybe a few times a week.
One personal thing that people don't know about me is that during this period I've been eating Harumi's soups. Another that's been one of the more useful activities. I also had the misfortune to buy one of those kind of weed strimmer little things for, like, chopping down weeds, and that was a less successful experiment. I ended up putting a small rock through the window downstairs and smashing a huge window, actually. That was less successful. I also got a little bit obsessed with the birds that we were hearing in March and April because we were at home so much. And so I started looking up local Colorado birds and actually purchased a bird feeder. But that also wasn't tremendously successful. I didn't put it up very well, and the squirrels kind of dislodged it the first day. So in some ways, it's good for me to get back to playing the violin.
Okay. Save the best for last here.
Oh, God. Well, I think Andras said this article today that Boulder has been voted most livable city in the U.S. I think it's been voted that before by some
U.S. news.
Yeah, but I do have to say that that it's the trails and the outdoor life here. Like, I run to rehearsal. I literally run to rehearsal. And
that's better than running away from rehearsal.
Sometimes I run, but I don't tell them. No, it's really it's heaven. It's really they tried to, when I auditioned for the group. It rained nonstop, and I didn't see the mountains at all. So I was kind of like, I got back to Denver to the airport. And I was like, I don't know why anybody says Boulder is beautiful. It's just like, it's sort of more like Seattle, but without the ocean. And then when I showed up here in June, driving over the Rocky Mountains, I was like, oh, there are mountains here. So I really think that this is really, we're really fortunate to live in heaven. It's really, this city is very special.
I can definitely relate to the intense focus on the natural world. I've gotten to know the bunny that's living in my backyard. I also bought a bird feeder. But Princeton is gorgeous, but it's not as gorgeous as Boulder. One of the things we've been doing during this time is sharing playlists every week. And now Harumi is making me think that we need to share recipes too. I might be following up with you on some secret recipes.
Great.
But thank you guys. Thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for helping us kick off our season. I know how much work went into making the recording what it was tonight, and to make it feel like it actually was the opening night of our series, which it did feel like. And I have to say personally, thank you for reminding me why I love what I do. A little bit like Richard said, it's so easy for that to get lost when you're in your home staring at a computer and Zoom all day. And even if this music was across the screen, to spend time with you and to hear you play and to know how well you are and how great you're sounding is incredibly nurturing. So thank you. And thank you for spending time in the Q&A. I look forward to the moment when I can welcome you back to Richardson Auditorium in person, and we can all be with you together, and to meeting you, Richard, in person. And I just want to thank everybody who listened to the broadcast and came to the Q&A tonight for joining us. Our next concert is on November 29th, virtual concert. We will be presenting the Princeton University Concerts debut of two fabulous young musicians, Sheku and Isata Kane Mason, brother and sister duo, cello and violin. So there are debuts that are going to happen even during this time, and there are a number of other initiatives that we're undertaking. So the best way to get information on concerts and everything else we're doing is to visit PrincetonUniversityConcerts.org. So thank you, everybody. Guys, be well, be safe, and sending you lots of love from Princeton.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.